we should just talk about what happened last night. NXT TakeOver Toronto. All I can say is wow.
I'm starting to wonder if they can put on a bad show.
Yeah, I know, right? There has never been a bad TakeOver. Sure, there are some weeks of NXT that are pretty ho-hum. This last week was, not one of the better ones. But, geez, these TakeOvers are... And everyone in the Raw and SmackDown locker rooms were watching that and going, motherfucker, they did it again.
And the thing about it is, and I may harp on this, but I completely believe this is why it's great, is that they do build up each event every 3 months, and you get a nice build up on those rivalries, and they make you care about it, and then they go out there and they put on a show for you. And the fans, they're always in a hot city. So like last night, the Toronto crowd was amazing. They didn't try to get themselves over. It was all about enhancing the show. And it really did enhance the show because they were on their hands, and they were up, and they were feeling each moment that happened.
That crowd was just, and I know we have not been going through match by match on stuff for a while, but I think we're going to do that because there were only 5 matches.
Yeah.
So let's talk about each match, and let's talk with the opening. And I think they picked the perfect match to open this: Bobby Roode versus Ty Dillinger, and giving Roode the opening entrance with that choir. That was great. I mean, that was
glorious.
It was. There were 2 entrances on this show that rival pretty much anything you see at a WrestleMania. They were that good. And man, that entrance, Bobby Roode came out with the crowd going ballistic, and they love Bobby Roode's entrance. I tell you what. And then Ty Dillinger follows it up and gets a huge entrance himself, and they go nuts for him.
The Canadian boys came through. I do want to say Bobby Roode, his timing and the pace and how he lets everything happen, and he lets the music really sell his entrance, and then he just puts his motions and everything to it. Like, it just adds to the entrance of it and how special it is. I don't know how long they work on it, but his timing and how long it takes him to get in the ring, and the looks on his face, every motion seems to go with the music.
It does, and he hit the jackpot with that song. And I don't know how much of that is he came in and he said to the CFO guys, "Hey, I'd like something that's Queen-like." I don't know how they came up with that, but that is one of the greatest entrance themes ever. And that might have to be a top 5 in the future, entrance themes.
I have to say that song has done more to get him over than anything he did in TNA.
Oh yeah. That song combined with all the Rude bombs that went viral all over the place. Thank you, Gargano and Ciampa. That is just, yeah. And you're right. His timing, he's perfect. And you're watching this, and even throughout the entire match, and I'm just sitting there thinking to myself, why is he not, on Raw or SmackDown? Can you imagine him doing that entrance on Raw somewhere in a good city? They would go nuts. And just, what do you think of the match itself?
Speaking of the match itself, I can honestly say I thought it was going to go a little differently, because I thought the crowd was going to be so over for Bobby Roode that it would make it hard for him to play a heel. But pacing is going to be my big thing when I talk about Bobby Roode, because he does it so well. He does move so slowly, and he takes his time. He lets the anticipation build up. So, and the fans were like, they were kind of starting to boo him somewhere in the middle of that. because he wrestles this perfect type of heel style for they needed a big baby face, and Ty Dillinger was the perfect baby face for him in this match, because Ty Dillinger was working the aggressive, trying to get the match going, and then every time he would, Bobby Roode with a knee to the stomach, or he would slow down the pace of the match, and that was even heelish in that way.
Yes, I agree, and I love it that he went to do the tiebreaker. He was going to use Dillinger's own move. I thought that was fantastic. He didn't hit it, but just the tease. I thought was really cool. The match itself I thought was really, really good. And it's in a lot of ways it's a real shame that Ty Dillinger is never going to leave NXT. I mean, I shouldn't say never, but I think most of us truly believe that Ty Dillinger is not going to leave NXT. If I'm not mistaken, he's in a bit of a trainer role there as well. And I hadn't realized how long he'd been in the wrestling business until they showed the video packages about him on this week's just episode of NXT. And in watching that, I was like, oh wow, he was in FCW a long time ago. He was actually on the main roster for a short bit. And first of all, that man's got like Dick Clark aging. He doesn't age.
That's true. And I think with him, I remember watching him in the ECW, the new ECW that they came up with, and thinking, oh, he's cool. I remember they were announcing him, and I was like, oh, it's cool. And he didn't last very long, and they got rid of him, and I was like, what did he do? That was, again, I was starting to get a lot smarter and smarkier anyway. And I was like, what did he do for them to get rid of him that quickly? And he kind of alludes to that he didn't handle it very well. But I like that he might be NXT forever. With as much as they call up, people, and they don't really send people back down very often. That doesn't happen much more. It's good to have that one. Ty Dillinger is that piece that in the NXT brand. I would say he's like that the old character, if anyone's seen the movie from Bull Durham. He's going to be the guy in NXT for a long time.
Yeah, I can see that. There's for one thing, he's probably making pretty decent money down there. Yeah. And I mean, it could be a lot worse life living in Orlando, Florida, working out 6 days a week, traveling Florida, going to big events across the country, and being kind of the gatekeeper, so to speak, of NXT. And getting to train younger people coming in, because I'm looking at his Wikipedia page. Looks like he started wrestling in 2002. How old is this? This dude was 35. Well, granted, 35 is not old. So yeah, he was in.
Because I'm 35.
Exactly. There you go. And I'm older than that. He was in OVW from 2006 to 2007, FCW from 07 to 08, ECW in 08 and 09, and then he worked the Indies from 2009 to 2013, and he's been in NXT ever since. I remember he had that tag team with Jason Jordan for a while, and that just didn't work out, and they're both so much better off now where they are than they were. But yeah, this was an excellent match. I'd like to see. It would be nice to see him at some point get a title, and one could make an argument, especially as NXT grows. Granted, their roster's a little smaller right now, but they could possibly use having a secondary belt, and I could see, their version of, say, a TV title, and you could see Ty Dillinger, holding that belt for a number of different times. But yeah, this was a great match. I loved the little moment afterwards where Ty was in the ring and getting showered with applause. I just thought that was really cool. It was a perfect way, a glorious way to start the evening. Then we had the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic Tournament finale with the Authors of Pain taking on TM61. And Paul Ellering was old school, suspended in a cage above the ring. I loved that. That was just so, like, 1985.
Yes, and it was... I like how they had him interfering in matches more for a few weeks before building to that. And I thought that was really cool. I was like, it was very old school, and, you know, it took me back to my childhood when it came to him being up in the cage.
Yeah, and him getting a more hands-on, I think, is a really good thing, because I think they're doing a really good job with this team. Is they bring them in as monsters. The guys just babble in some other language. Who knows what it is? Russian, something. I don't know. Maybe even Bulgarian. I don't know what it is. They're just screaming in something. And Paul Ellering's just standing there being Paul Ellering. And then he slowly starts to talk, and he slowly gets involved. And they're getting better as a team. This was, if not their best match to date, their second best match. Because the match they had against Gargano and Ciampa was excellent. But the thing I thought about this is both teams came out. I was like, well, the crowd doesn't care about this match. And you know what? These four guys got the crowd invested. And I think the thing that really turned the tide was Shane Thorne's crazy jump off of that crane. And that was when the crowd was like, oh, these guys can actually go. And
that's actually when I woke up. I was watching the match, and I was like, it was a basic tag team match. And I'd seen, you know, these two had wrestled before, and I really thought it was going to go the same type of way. And he did that spot, and it just, okay, all right. And it's funny because it's weird as a wrestling fan. I kind of like to see myself as a more subtle fan and can pick up on other things. But I was right there with the crowd on that one. I really wasn't too excited. I haven't been too excited about TM61 lately. I think they're a good tag team, but nothing stuck out. And he took that leap, and it was just like, okay, maybe these guys can work. And then I watched the rest of the match, and I was very impressed with them. I think the Dusty Invitational served its purpose. It got both teams over.
Oh yeah, and I think there will be a much better appreciation, a new appreciation for TM61 with the NXT fans. I think whenever they go back to Full Sail, they're going to get a hero's welcome after this match. Because not only was that spot cool, then you had Nick Miller throwing those two giant guys around. And you look at these two dudes, you mentioned this last week, how you think they need to add on some muscle weight. Because they look like two kind of lanky, skinny dudes. And here, Nick Miller is picking up both Akam and Razor and zuplexing them around and all sorts of stuff. And they actually hit their finishing move. I did not think in a million years they would be able to do that.
And that showed me they can do it to anyone, so that really got their finisher over in my mind.
Agreed. That was this was the match that started out no one caring about, and by the end, people really, really enjoying. And I think you hit the nail on the head. This tournament and this match specifically did exactly what it needed to do, which was get these two teams over. And it was also a nice primer, because this was the shortest match of the night, and it probably needed to be, because Authors of Pain are still pretty darn green. But it led into the match of the night, if not match of the weekend, if not match of the year, the NXT Tag Team Championship match, 2 out of 3 falls. DIY, Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa taking on the Revival, Dash Wilder and Scott Dawson. Yeah, I was kind of, because I didn't get to watch this last night, and I was flipping through Facebook, and I thought I saw a picture of Gargano and Ciampa having won. I was like, no, scroll past it, don't look. And so, but it didn't matter. Once I was watching this match, I was so invested. I'm surprised I didn't wake up my family, because, you know, it's like 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm bouncing in my chair like a, you know, giddy kid, trying not to scream at the top of my lungs through the whole thing. And holy crap, what a match!
can say there are very few times I actually mark out, where I get involved because I don't know who's going to win the match and I don't know anything. That match did that for me. These two teams work so well together. I could watch them in a barn in Okarche, Oklahoma, if that is where they'll be performing. Anywhere these two teams are wrestling, I'm going to watch it. Their styles work so well together. They tell a good story. I'm going outside of the wrestling for the Revival. What they say, like we pulled it over with Kevin Owens, what they say during the match is so Kevin Owen-esque. And that they say things, about what's going on, and it's very subtle. And they work the leg, and it's just how it comes together, and the expressions on Ciampa and Gargano's face. I mean, it tells a complete story, and it's seriously. Every time I watch them wrestle, I fall in love with tag team wrestling all over again.
Amen. And you know what? They have got, if WWE is smart, they're going to keep these two together for a long time, because eventually when Ciampa snaps and turns on Gargano, people are going to hate him, because Johnny Gargano is the absolute quintessential babyface. And these two guys are so good. And the Revival, my God, could you have a better tag team? I mean, they had these incredible matches with American Alpha. And then they've had these equally, if not more, probably more incredible matches with Gargano and Ciampa. And yeah, this match was just, I figured this ends in one of two ways. The Revival wins and Tommaso turns, or DIY wins. And I was so happy when DIY won. I loved, all the falls were fantastic. That when Gargano was doing his springboard, or his spear thing, and they turned it into a shatter machine, I
felt like that was the spot of the night, personally.
And you watch that back, in the angle, I mean, in a way, Gargano's lucky he didn't break his neck, because the angle was so bad. And then I loved when the Revival went to do DIY's finishing move, and also when DIY hit the shatter machine themselves. I thought that was great. That could have been a fall. For a while, I was thinking there, it's like, wouldn't it be so cool if DIY won using the shatter machine? But they won with their submissions, and yeah, I was so invested in this match.
As a super wrestling nerd, I'd like to point out that finish was illegal. Thank you.
Oh, the
completely. Double. Did it just turn into a tornado tag team match or something? I was like, this is really illegal. But hey, it shot well. I mean, it played well. It was the perfect way, because the Revival has been such heels and such complete asses to DIY, to make them tap out in the middle of the ring while trying to keep each other from tapping out at the same time. It was a perfect ending. I mean, I honestly couldn't have ended it any differently. I mean, it was a perfect completion. I don't know if they're going to do any more matches. I would personally like them not to do another match. And when next time we see this happening, it would be on the main roster, because that ending left a perfect tone to the end of this rivalry.
Oh, yeah, I agree. I couldn't agree more, because what I would like to see happen tomorrow night at Survivor Series, after the tag team elimination match, which we'll get to in a minute, New Day, and this will go with my prediction, New Day wins, they're the last team standing, and the Revival come out and attack them.
Yep.
And either that, or if American Alpha are the winners, whoever is standing winning, and it needs to be a babyface team, the Revival come out and just decimate them. Because at this point, they're super pissed because they just lost their title. And you could even, I mean, they won't write this into the story, but you could even have them, you could have something shot where they're going to Regal demanding a rematch and saying, no, that was a 2 out of 3 fall match. You're done. you are now done in NXT, and they take it upon themselves to move on to the main roster and take out whoever wins that. But that would actually be good storytelling, so it probably won't happen.
That is true. That is the one way we can tell. It would be truly shocking. I would be more shocked because it would go away from. It would go to the lines of just putting on a good TV show every week, which is what I think would make wrestling great again. It's just they can stop worrying about building stars and just make a good TV show.
Exactly. You make a good, compelling TV show, and the show will make the stars.
Exactly. I mean, you don't have to pick the stars. I mean, to use just the first one to pop up in my head, Steve Urkel, just from Family Matters, was supposed to be just a guest appearance. He's supposed to be a one-off. Not even a recurring character, a one-off. And he ended up being the star of the show. You let the fans tell you what they want.
Yeah, but Vince McMahon knows best. I mean, come on.
You know what? My brain, I call it Vince brain. I definitely have it sometimes, and what he's done over the last 35 years of my life has been complete gold. And I don't question him much. It's just now it's like you don't live in a world. You live in a world where people do not like to be told what to do, what to like, what to think.
Exactly.
And that being said, it's just different.
Yeah.
And to me, if your product is going to adapt and survive, you have to let the fans control. Not necessarily who wins, but who gets more TV time and who is the most popular.
Exactly. Yeah, it's Vince when he was doing his best stuff. It was a world that was transitioning from 4 TV channels through bunny ears into cable television, and he was taking what had been regional companies and creating a nationwide company, and he did that extremely well. But now everything is so niche designed that people don't have to watch your show. They can go watch 80,000 other things either on cable TV, on the internet, so many other choices. And there's so many other wrestling choices. Hell, as we've watched, the WWE has created its own biggest competition in their developmental brand. And it's doing well because Vince isn't writing it. It has really nothing to do with it. So,
and it's a very old school approach of, they just put on good shows every week.
Exactly.
They let the wrestlers who are great wrestlers tell their story, and they get out there, and you put on a compelling product, and it has grown. You know what? It's just so much better than what they're putting on the other roster. And I'm not saying SmackDown and Raw. Well, SmackDown is good, but NXT is better because it feels organic. It might not be. Everything that they do might be completely scripted by Triple H, but they have caught the organic feeling to make me feel like that they're just kind of like, oh, you're going to win tonight or whatever, and like make it look good.
Agreed. So then we go on. We had Asuka defending the NXT Women's Championship against the returning Mickie James. You know what? This was... I liked this. I've never seen a Mickie James match. That girl is good. She can go.
I came in this match with zero interest in this match because I literally knew who was going to win. And it was just like, oh my God, they're just feeding Asuka. And Mickie James and Asuka put on such a compelling and such a interesting match that it made me buy in by the end of the match. And I was just feeling everything. Even how it ended. It wasn't this dominating end. It was like it was 50-50 until the final submission hold. It was great.
Yeah, and I like that they've kind of got to the point where you've got Asuka, who's the head of this women's division, and she is obviously just leaps and bounds above everyone else. But you're by bringing in a Mickie James, and I think they should probably bring in a few more people for her to challenge, as the rest of the division kind of grows to her level. Because a lot of those girls are actually really stinking good. I would say that, Billie Kay and Peyton Royce, I've been, singing their praises for a long time. They are both really, really good, but the audience hasn't gotten to the point yet where they recognize them. But the show's doing a really good job of building them up. That was something that was really good on this week's just episode of NXT. The Liv Morgan match with Peyton Royce, and then ends up in the disqualification, and then Aaliyah comes out and she got a nice pop, and then there was all heck was breaking loose, and then Ember Moon came out to a big pop, and it was cool. It was a nice just kind of brawl, and it really, I think, made everyone look good in that whole thing. And it's going to take a while to build up the rest of the division for Asuka. So in the meantime, you bring in people like Mickie James, and maybe they even planted the seeds. Who knows? Maybe they're going to have another match, because the way that thing ended, Mickie James standing there offering her hand and Asuka just holding up the title, they're doing a real good job trying to turn Asuka heel, even though the crowd loves her so much it's kind of hard to do. But it was surprisingly good. I mean, no, I don't think anyone thought for a million years that Mickie James was going to win. There were a couple close falls when she hit that Mick kick, which that's a pretty badass move. I give credit to her, but yeah, this was I really liked it.
Yeah, someone was like, when's the last time Mickie James wrestles? I was like, Saturday? She wrestles every weekend. She wrestled TNA. She never actually quits wrestling. She does a lot of local shows in Oklahoma, and she's on her game. I mean, she did not miss a beat last night, and I don't know if they're opening the door for her to work with the WWE anymore, but it won't be because she can't wrestle. It would be because they was like, this was just a one-time thing. But she can wrestle. I wouldn't even mind her putting over one of these new or younger stars, as in trying to build them up to an Asuka type level.
Oh yeah, that's a great idea. I hadn't even thought about that. But whoever it is that you pick to be Asuka's next challenger, or eventually the person that defeats her, you have Mickie James come in and say, you know what, I'm the only person who's come close to beating Asuka. You want a shot at her, you have to go through me.
Yeah.
Good call. Well, that takes us to the main event. Shinsuke Nakamura defending the NXT Championship against Samoa Joe. And, we talked about entrances earlier. That Nakamura entrance was impressive. The only thing that bugged me at all about it was the last time they had a guy out there doing the violin with Nakamura, he was actually playing, and you could hear him playing. And this time it was pretty obvious all of those people playing violins weren't actually playing.
And that's why it kind of lost its luster for me. And when people were marking out, I just kind of put, I mean, I understand they had more people and it was supposed to enhance, and I'm not even a music guy, but you could clearly tell that was pre-recorded.
Yes. Yeah, and even the last time, the guy came out, he played a bit first, and he played along with the pre-recorded song, but you could still hear him playing. And this time, and I don't know a ton about violins, but if you watched them and they're playing, quote unquote, and listening to the music, you're like, wait, that doesn't. What their movements aren't fitting what's going on with the song. But it was a great visual, and that crowd was bonkers. That was, for a crowd that has lost its mind a number of times this night, for Bobby Roode's entrance, for DIY winning, this was the most deafening, I think, of everything that happened. It was a great entrance, and yeah, that is an entrance to rival anything on a WrestleMania.
That entrance actually sold me on going to the TakeOver before Rumble. I was just going to drive into San Antonio. I was going to go in Saturday or Sunday just so I could, see the sights and then go to the show. I'm going in Friday, so I can do the sights on Saturday and go to that NXT show the Saturday night. It sold me. I mean, it's just like TakeOver is just so good, and most of the time it's better than the pay-per-view the next day.
It really is. And I tell you, this match, this was better than their last match, I thought. This was so good. And that final fall, it was shocking. I don't think anyone there thought Samoa Joe was going to win. And you could even hear the way when the crowd was counting along, and then when they hit 3, there was almost like quiet. It was almost eerily reminiscent of when Brock Lesnar beat The Undertaker at WrestleMania.
Because it ended Nakamura's streak.
Yeah.
It did. He hadn't lost the whole time. He had not taken a pinfall in a match since he was in WWE. I personally, and I don't know if anyone else saw this, I saw the story that they were telling, that Joe had gotten in Nakamura's head so much that he was overly aggressive. So in that final spot where he's about to attack him outside of the ring, his aggression led to Joe getting the upper hand and cost him the belt.
Yep. And now Samoa Joe is the first 2-time NXT champion. And so, I've kind of figured that whoever, or let me rephrase it. I figured once Nakamura won this match, Samoa Joe would be heading up to the main roster. Obviously, that's not happening now.
I'm kind of glad. I don't think the main roster was ready for him yet. And a little just kind of hindsight being 2020. Now that I see what happened, I can see why they did it. Because now you have that January pay-per-view, and it's honestly not on much, but it's a little shorter than what they usually have to build up the takeovers.
Right.
So if you want to go Joe Nakamura 3, it doesn't need the build up of a new rivalry match. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. And I think that would be a great way to go. Come up with maybe even some kind of gimmick for it. I don't know what kind, but yeah, they need to have a rubber match. And this was and I don't know who, and whoever loses that needs to go to the main roster, because there's nothing else really for them to do in NXT, which makes, in my head, I'm fantasy booking, right? And I'm thinking, okay, in watching this entire match, I'm looking at these two guys, I'm like, okay, either one of these two, one of these guys needs to be the person who finally beats Brock Lesnar. And can you imagine, let's say if it's Nakamura, it's after Rumble, after Mania, after whatever, Paul Heyman's in the ring with Lesnar and saying, no, we're done. There's no one else for us to beat. We've beaten everybody. Nakamura's music hits. And especially if it's after Mania, can you imagine the way that place would lose their mind?
It would be amazing, and I think Nakamura is one of the people who Brock Lesnar would actually put over, because that's a big thing with Brock Lesnar. He's such a legit badass. It's not just, hey, I want you to lose to Brock Lesnar. It's, who's Brock Lesnar going to let pin him?
Exactly. And I think he would let Nakamura pin him.
Yeah, there's a respect there from their time in New Japan together. And since Nakamura has actually beaten Brock Lesnar, that works too. And his style is the type of style it would take to beat Brock Lesnar. I could see them playing those strikes going to Brock Lesnar's gut. And as aggressive as Nakamura is and has strong style, I could see that, the diverticulitis or whatever, they could play that up really well, as in when him beating Brock Lesnar. I don't think he would ever put Joe over.
Yeah, probably not, which sucks.
I think Joe is too much of just a professional wrestler for him to put over, unfortunately. And when Brock Lesnar wins, it has to be a big thing. And because Nakamura does not speak the language well, he's getting better, don't get me wrong. He doesn't speak the language well. To get that main roster behind him, other than the music, it's going to take a monumental moment. And beating Brock Lesnar would make him legit number one. and put him in the main event picture of any show that he's on.
Oh yeah, yeah, and it would be what would be also really cool if they acknowledge the fact that these two had a history in New Japan, because they talk about Lesnar being in New Japan, they've talked about Nakamura being in New Japan. So if they get some pictures from their match in New Japan from whoever, and say, these two have a history. However many years ago they faced off, Nakamura defeated Lesnar, and that would be really cool. Again, that's good storytelling, so it probably won't happen. But yeah, I would, just watching this match, I'm the whole time I'm watching this, I'm like, yeah, I can see either of these two guys completely going toe to toe and beating Lesnar, and it being absolutely believable. The whole match was just great. And I can't wait to see what they do next. And I think you're right. I think we're going to get the rubber match at TakeOver from San Antonio. And maybe whoever loses, maybe if Joe loses, and they're going to keep Nakamura in NXT for a while, for one, to help him learn English some more, and two, for a big name as a draw down there. Then Joe could show up at the Royal Rumble. One thing I did think was funny when, and I'm the only one who noticed this, but when Joe first won, and they started playing his music, I think they screwed up and played the original entrance music they gave him. Mm-hmm. Because I was listening, I was like, wait, what is that? That's awful. And then when it went back to the roar part, I think they played the right one. It's like, okay, that's better.
There was a miscue there.
But yeah, so overall, last impressions of NXT TakeOver Toronto.
Biggest thing is they are building Joe as that monster, that guy. I could see him honestly staying in NXT and being there for a while, and I could definitely see them pulling him up to the main roster. It's just, but they have built him. They have given him a clean victory over Finn Balor and Nakamura, and he was the only person that had the clean victory over Finn Balor until Nakamura. And now he's the only person that beat Nakamura. So they are putting a lot into Samoa Joe, and that makes me so happy, because I feel like he's been one of the best wrestlers in the world for a very, very long time. And I felt like, especially with him, and coming from the time when JR and Bruce Pritchard told him, you know what, we're basically not going to make wrestlers that look like you. And the fact that, he's kicked doors down to get where he has. I am over the moon, super marking now, proud of Samoa Joe.
Yes. Yeah, and I think my overall takeaway is this was another phenomenal show. It's going to be, when you go down listing shows of the year, it's probably going to be up there. It was excellent. It had two phenomenal matches, and yeah, I'm also real happy about Samoa Joe. I love the fact that the WWE has learned from, I guess, the error of their ways, thinking that we're only going to build superstars that look like John Cena and Randy Orton. And they realize that, no, there's a lot of other talent out there. And the success of Samoa Joe, the success of Kevin Owens on the main roster, bringing in AJ Styles and hot-shotting him to the top. It goes to show that you don't have to be a 6-foot-something bodybuilder anymore to be a success in WWE, or be believed or beloved by the audience. And this was so much fun. I feel really bad for Survivor Series, which comes later tonight.